Alright, it took quite longer than I expected, but we're back. We've got the second part. Already finished the lineup cleaning. We had started shading. I said I wanted to work on a whole, but on the whole image as traditional as possible, but it will be really helpful to have the silhouette of our character here. So I'll just go and refine it so we can get to the next step. I've already corrected a couple of things, cleaned up shading a bit more. And sort of reverted to this orange tone, which is the one I feel the most used to work with. He has a strange haircut. But this is sort of the first version anyways, so the important thing is to get it ready to color. And the idea is also to focus on a webcomic method of coloring because, well, mainly on Photoshop, which is the standard, and webcomic coloring is the one that comes the closest to an actual anime. Sometimes even a webcomic allows for a better level of detail than an anime, but I've also wanted to focus on a webcomic coloring method because it's also a great way to exercise simplicity and to refine and sharpen your artistic instinct. Okay. This is sort of like making a cake. You get rid of the excess. Getting a feel, that's also a reason why I wanted to show this coloring method. This webcomic style of coloring also looks really well in printed format, so it's a good way to start coloring, which is almost as fun as drawing itself. I'm a black and white guy. I prefer the inks, but that's a personal preference. I do like the the way technology allowed for expedient methods and even faster methods than ever to do coloring and other editorial affairs that used to take so long, and it was so much work. We are pretty, I think we're doing pretty well so far. As I was saying before in the chat, I think we are lucky people. Of course, we have our own challenges and issues and difficulties and so on, but we're also very fortunate considering all the elements at our disposal to do whatever whatever it is we wish to do. What happens with this? Oh. Let's make it clearer. I was using an extra layer of shade. This should be behind. Added a white gradient, a vertical white gradient here to suggest the order and the direction for the eye to follow. Very subtle though. Going below this layer, which is to add darkness, and when properly erased, it leaves an effect. The gradient sort of bleeds out on this part that were open. Alright, but back to the shape. Let's see. Now that we have a separate layer for the background, we should be able to clean up this. I think I will erase this eventually, but let's leave it there for the moment, for the time being. Okay. A hard pencil for shadows allows us here to create a contrast, already interesting contrast in black and white. I usually tinker with these values until I get exactly what I want, but this is a good starting point as well for, let's start with the skin, for example. Let's just take a, for that we will need a hard brush. What's happening here? Ah, this is in normal as well. This should be multiply. Okay. A very important thing when it comes to coloring, to simple coloring, as in for demanding weekly sequential jobs rather than portraits or other free-form ways of expression. Is to have a solid. First of all, it allows you to work tonally. As I said before, I always get my shadows first, and then I use a highlight, um, a clearer, an extra layer for uh, the the highlights. I can integrate those and separate them exclusively to each particular layer. For example, the hood, or in this case, I'm painting the skin. For that, you need what they are called the flats. With solid flats, you got 50% of the job done. It's important to be clean and ordered. That takes more time than anything else. You can do many exercises and improve your technique and speed, but being orderly is something that takes a lot of time. I myself, I'm prone to be kind of obsessive with the order, uh, and I've been doing this for more than a decade, and I still overcomplicate myself and stumble myself and forgetting to keeping it simple. Sometimes getting rid of that, I'll fix this problem later, uh, or I figure this out once I get to the coloring stage. Avoiding those mental traps are the hardest part of doing art. The rest is a jiffy. The rest you learn along the way, and you have fun and you enjoy. You enjoy what you learn. You enjoy that silent conversation that you have with your creative side. Okay, that's too orangey, so we might hide them here. It will change later on. Okay. Let's see now, let's clean this. We're cleaning this here. I wanted this character's hair to be white. In fact, the profile it was sort of really loosely inspired in Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series. but slightly, just like a touch of Geralt. Okay. Let's see if we can do without this. I wanted it to have an unkempt bird, but it doesn't look well from afar. There is a bit more graph. Because it has silly it has a silly face, all things considered. When using inking, remember or try to keep in mind to continue the rhythm of the lines. Try to be consistent with directions and try to finish, for example, when you have this kind of lines. Always look for the rhythm and consider the rhythm. That shall give you interesting results that usually don't teach you in art school. All those details add weight to the equipment, which is something that is of particular importance to me and the way I like designing characters. I like their equipment to feel weighty. is sort of an extra layer of meaning added to the work. I'm going overboard here. The obsession of rounding everything up is eating up at me. Let's keep these spaces clean. To add to the flow. Okay. We've got the skin. This blue is anime enough. Yes, it is. I mean, this is too dark, but it's the right idea. See? Okay, what else? We've said his hair was gonna be white. It looks like there used to be a singer here in Argentina that was sort of a tropical music frontman, Rodrigo. Oops. What a problem. Let's see, intersect. No, we will need white, subtract. Okay, now we should put white. Let's use this. It's not actually white. Okay, we could also add a lighter shade for the eyes. There. I kinda like it. The character, the character expression, it's sort of starting to speak. That is the feeling that I'm starting to get. When I get to that point, I know I'm on the right track. Otherwise, I usually redo the whole image again until either I get it the way I want or I give up. Okay, let's go with the leather belt. take the whole belt, then we will pick the metal parts and change the color on the same layer to avoid okay. You can already leave it at that, and you have already. I'm gonna repeat the word 1,000 times. Since the line art is much more is far cleaner than the original, more sketchier version. The shades, a single layer of shade and the base colors already make the figure pop out. We will add a couple of extra effects. Not going too overboard, as minimalist as possible and taking advantage of the layers as much as possible. We will get all the belts on the same color, then we will modify the different levels of brown, different tones of brown, depending on the material. Something I like doing a lot is to design sort of backpacks, different backpacks depending on the category and depending on the weapon. The weapon, I mean the equipment dependent, let's say, of the category and the level of the character. And the other parameters, for example, if it carries too big a backpack but it doesn't have the sufficient strength, but it has a high stat in, for example, dexterity, I make something like that with many pockets and little bags. I even made, well, I put the shadow here. Perhaps I could suggest it or paint it over, but the idea was to have a backpack below the hood, sort of protecting it in the case of attack or failed stealth. That was more or less the idea. Okay, what other belts here? The important thing to me is for it to look functional. If I'm designing your tabletop character and you tell me, okay, he uses this weapon, he carries these things are visible, I like base my thinking all around that and looking for a way to include all the elements in a feasible fashion. That always adds an extra layer of, we could say, yes, an extra layer of depth to your character. an additional medium to an additional element to communicate who he or she is. A good way to see if the flats are working out is to check without the line art. Let's say we have one shading layer and the flats, and we more or less have the rhythm and the image, the overall image of the figure beyond the lines, which means things are going well. Now we have an extra I need to finish this here. We have an additional pouch here. Oh, damn it. I made it on the wrong layer. What a moron. Let's see, what do we do? Okay. It's not much, can be redone. Simplify. This is the base layer. This is color, this is skin. This is hair. Sometimes you won't even have time to put the names on the files. So you'll eventually get used to do it on the go. When working, for example, in webcomics, that you will be handling hundreds and hundreds of layers and rearranging things, having as separate layers for the balloons, plus the fonts in case you wanna translate them. Okay, let's finish here. We're almost done. I was thinking he might probably have black leatherish pants, at least the lower part. I was thinking this This would be, this would be like a leather boot, reinforced leather boot. Let's put things there. I haven't decided yet if I will be coloring the lines, but I will probably do in some parts, in the highlights, for example, and particular parts, perhaps the face as well. We will see, but not much, because that gives it a sort of artificial look that it's sort of a contrast with the classic anime shading and coloring we are going after. Okay, we have here, we got there, that's the other belt. I remember being impressed with the armor the armor design of The Witcher 3. I liked it a lot. It looked both aesthetically pleasant and also look functional. I enjoyed The Witcher 1 as well, and I remember the armor and the functionality because depending on the armor you had quick slots to access to potions, and that might look like such a commonplace thing or such a mundane uh, detail, but those little things that got lost along the way contributed a lot to the immersion and the experience of the old games. This may sound like boomer talk, and it probably is, but I think it's good to remind about those things that made something good in your eyes. And we are not seeing those any longer in modern times. Okay, we got there. Let's get that dark leatherish look because we will create I might even give him a two color cape, but I don't know, that's like too high level in my head canon. Okay, we've got leather there. We should also perhaps, well, of course, the glove. Might add a couple of stats later on. I will paint it black, fully black now, but we will make a couple of details to make it stand out a bit. Okay. Got black here, black here. like the lower part of the armor. You can see it's sort of reinforced here, but almost imperceptible. You couldn't detect it in motion. And also here. There. This looks a bit confusing. We will paint it. Go up to there. The cape. I imagine something either dark orange or deep red. Let's look for it. Let's go with this red for the time being. We are working on the flats. Using the inks in multiply and lowering its opacity helps with creates an illusion of occlusion. And by using just one shade layer, by taking advantage of the time we took during the inking process, that helps convey an additional level, sort of contributes to the illusion. The image effectively not only pops out but also seems to have a movement. Those are the things I tend to consider when working on a portrait. Perhaps what I'm saying is super commonplace to everybody or to anyone listening to this, but sometimes we're not mindful of those particular things. And those are really fun to explore. You can follow a tutorial to the T, and you'll eventually see your mind will automatically look to replace or to look for more effective ways to use their resources. And that sort of minimalism, it's really helpful for the work we do to have a soul. That's always important. Not mandatory, but important. When you take your time to make a drawing or you wanna make a sort of a graphic depiction or approximation to something that's on your mind. It starts from there. Alright. Do we have everything closed? Let's see. No, we don't. Oh yes, this one is closed, this one's not closed. Up here, there it is. We need to close that. So we can two-click our problem away. Right-click, select inverse. G for the bucket. Ta-da! We got our cape. That blue with that red, it's certainly not helping. It sort of feels too generic. So let's take this blue somewhere else. This looks more adventure-ish. Let's look for something midway, a bit extravagant and a bit functional. Of course we will have different colors then, but using one as reference now. I think it looks quite good. Still unfinished, of course. What I was gonna do, I was gonna use a yellowish, a golden tone. To make the hebillas. I don't remember the name in English. These are not laces. I don't know, belts, but belt would be leather. In Spanish it's hebilla. Hebilla. Las empanadas. I left a space here for this earring here. So I have to erase. It's almost anime. It's like one of my Japanese anime. Oh damn! I'm so thirsty. I'm gonna get some water. There. All right. I'm alive again. Let's color these studs. That's sort of we're gonna represent the a D8 dice. This guy will have to be reinforced with leather. I wanted this to be leather. We could give a generic background color to this. Okay. We don't need. This should be the same color as the cape. Alright. Let's mix it up with some Mega Man classic music. Mega Man 3. Okay. I don't want to black it out, but this might work. This and a combination. We can use, in this part, we can use the shadow we can use the shade layer here to give texture to the image. One good thing of having a single layer, this resembles the anime feeling quite good. You can change the color of the whole layer and you can get a different feeling depending on the work. It's important to keep it versatile. You can then add all the detail you want as long as you have a solid groundwork. I go working part by part, layer by layer, sort of looking for different angles. Sometimes I work on a quick sketch, apply fast shading and lighting, and then ink that over, and then color shade and color everything again. It depends on the characters and the equipment, of course. Okay, let's see if we can refine something a bit here. No, I don't want to touch yet the shading layer. Let's leave it at that until we have Yes, I was gonna work on the texture. But first I need a sample. There we are. So I wanted this part here to be sort of as if it was a hard or boiled leather, rather. It doesn't have to be realistic or hyper detailed. You got to nail the impression right. That might take a couple of tries and a bit of iteration, but it's the fastest way to get a good image and a good idea across in the shortest amount of time. The eyes, my eyes are starting to fail at this hour. Okay. It was far better. Now, let's say we add the highlights layer. I don't want his pupils to shine. course this cape material can't shine that much. After all, the cape and the hood have to be for a road, have to be an element of defense. And I want to stay cloaked. That was something. Well, I'm a fan of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time trilogy, and I didn't like Assassin's Creed much, but one thing that I liked a lot was the fact that using the hood to get lost in the crowd, I thought that was great. That was a really great detail which said a lot in a single gesture. A really cool gesture too. What happened to Assassin's Creed? What happened to Prince of Persia? I haven't played the latest one because I'm not interested. Not the Sands of Time, not my problem. This extra layer of highlights gives us the Dragon Ball style. Let's see if it looks good because I'm getting lost in the plot here. Just doing some testing here with this. overlay. Overlay is still too strong. And we will use linear gauge. Okay. We will need this for the exterior of the cape. And for this interior part. We will soften everything later, erasing the edges. It's starting to look like something else, huh? The idea here is to sort of suggest the shapes. Then we use the eraser with a soft edge. Without much detail, just to suggest. This is what I wanted to do. Reduce the opacity in certain parts. Perhaps make it sort of a chainmail in this part here. But I don't want to overcomplicate it after all. The focus here has to be the coloring. But well, this again with a single layer, you soften the edges with a low opacity eraser, and this allows you to still keep with that classic anime feeling and a wee bit of modern sensibilities. It's really subtle, but your eyes, your mind is already accustomed to this sort of presentation. It's part of the artistic direction that makes everyone uses motion capture nowadays. But good artistic direction kicks the ass of motion capture, and it's far cheaper. Right, we need to check a couple of things. This again by no means is definitive, but we go establishing the different points in rhythm. Let's see what happens when we use 100% of inks. That's quite dark. There are ways around this though. This allows for a bit of additional background with a single color over everything. Playing around with opacity. This one gives a good look. Turns everything warmer or colder. another plans for that. Okay, I think it's mostly done. Regarding shades and stuff, because we can start taking part by part and start coloring the shade layers, therefore creating the ultimate anime style. We'll take it part by part. Let's merge this. It seems so subtle, but there's definitely a difference. This red is too red. I will eventually find the one I want. Okay, back to the shadows. We could add, well, the classic anime had a second level of shade that was really subtle and only used sparingly. For example, here. That second level was used to, for example, in this part, show this sort of sleeve, suggest a shape, and at the same time allow you to add additional detail. As you can see, it looks really similar to the American shading as well. It's all a matter of the way, the number of layers you use, and how much you're able to sum up your idea, to synthesize your idea. I don't want to go too overboard with this, not the idea. But as you can see, with very little, we add a lot of extra detail. We're not gonna use it to that extent. I just wanted to give some accent here on the neck part and in this part here, sort of contributing to the occlusion we were talking previously. Okay, we will need an additional color to finish with the armor design. a dash. This is two image comics of the 90s. No, we don't want to complicate things. We stick to the basics. We set shading. We have one shading layer. We were going on the flats. Let's finish this here. No, not this one. Nope. It will have to be here. The armor as a whole has to be of a different color entirely. I'm looking for a not so flashy color. But otherwise I want something midway. We naturally tend to the red and blue combination. We have it that ingrained in our minds. No, we will need further brightness, less contrast. This is all black. This has to be ideally a second layer of this, that it looks to be letter. In fact, this might be simply studded leather, and I was overcomplicating things. This might work. I don't want to lose all the lines, but perhaps we might be able to use them if we color them over. I don't know how that would turn out though. wanted to listen everything. I should also include this part here. They should be part of the armor. There are a couple of dirty things there, here and there that will be patched in the end. Okay, let's look for the color of this. This looks like hardened leather. I'll give the blue as well, the same color. Perhaps a bit darker. We shall see. But we got sort of a nice texture there. Let's see, what do we do with this? What do we do with this? Let's define this a bit more. Focus on the shapes, try not to overdo it. I've already overdone it. Look how those are merely dots, but they have sort of help pop up the image, and it's just light. We're not using an extra layer for that. All those little tricks help a lot. It's sort of when you're playing games in the minimum settings, medium settings, and well, something like that. Imagine that at minimum settings, when you look the picture from afar, you should be able to recognize the whole. It's impossible to have in mind all of that while you're drawing. Just do your thing and have fun, but when you evaluate it again, those are the things that is important to take into account. I want to do something with these lines here and the layer, try to give a little bit at least of texture, but when you're too close you're not able to properly distinguish. This again is too clear. It might end being a different layer altogether. Hard light, soft light. There, hard light for a moment. This is far from the source of light though, so we'll have to lower the opacity. This doesn't have to shine too much, but we will alleviate the weight of those highlights by lowering their opacity. This is another thing I wanted to do, to give texture here as it was soon over. Oh damn, the store is going to close. I need to go buy food. The time went by. skin too. Okay, this still needs a bit of work. It's still too bright there. It's sort of incomplete there. This has to be refined. Well, I'll get to the drugstore, to the store, to the grocery store and get some food. And be back to see if I'm able to finish before the end of the day. Then we erase this and we got ourselves a nice effect with the same layer, mind you. We'll need a harder eraser for that part. Oh well, more or less the gist is there. We could even color this. And play around with this is a good way to imply a killing intent, huh? Oh, I like this. Doesn't look too stealthy, huh? But I like this. This still isn't looking as I'm imagining, but cleaning this a bit will more or less get us what we want. And these are just two layers. One layer of shade, a second layer of shade with a couple of little accents, which are almost imperceptible here. For example, here and here in the neck. Very, really, truly subtle. We got a couple of those and a shade of light, which we were experimenting by changing the colors and the opacity. So There we go. Alright. Be right back.